Welcome everybody to another one of James's videos. We're going to be dealing with grade 11 and 12 algebra today. The reason why it's 11 and 12 is they stopped teaching you algebra in grade 11. They focus on matric stuff in matric, but it is still something that is asked and expected to be known in your finals matrics. So that's why I've labeled it grade 11 and 12. First thing we're going to do here, we're starting at the beginning. We are dealing with solving for quadratic equations. The first example I'm going to do with you guys is a normal factorizing example where we can use our normal factorizing methods in order to get to the answer. So the first thing that I would do with this one is use my first rule of factorizing, which is taking out a common factor of x. What is left in the bracket would be 5x minus 2 is equal to 0. Okay, so how do I know it's a quadratic equation? Just before I carry on here, quadratic equations, their highest power will be a 2. So immediately when you see that, especially if it's all jumbled up, you want to get everything to one side of the equal sign and make it equal to 0. And then from there, do your factorizing or other methods that is given to us. So what we would do from this point, we've taken out our highest common factor. We factorized it to its fullest potential. And now we can go ahead and make our separate brackets. There's actually an invisible set of brackets around this x. So what we're going to do is we're going to say x is equal to 0 or 5x minus 2 is equal to 0. And then we're going to, so that one is in its final form, so that's perfect. This one we're going to simplify a bit, so we're going to bring the 2 over, it becomes a positive, and then we'll divide both sides by 5 to get the 5 away from the x, therefore x is equal to 2 over 5. Obviously, I really explained that in quite a bit of detail, but at the end of the day, you can just skip from this step to this step if you want to. Awesome, guys. So that is your normal method of factorizing a quadratic equation. So we have two answers. Another little hint, the amount of answers that you will have is dependent on your highest power. So in this case, because 2 is our highest power of x, it means that we will have 2 results for x. Okay, so if it was a cube, we would have 3 answers for x. If it was x to the power of 4, we would have 4 answers for x. Okay, fantastic, great. Okay, let's move on to the next type of quadratic equation, solving for quadratic equations, and that is when we can't use. So we use the quadratic formula. Quadratic formula actually works for everything. Quadratic formula is like a cheat code for every single quadratic formula, if you want a quadratic equation, if you're wanting to solve for x. But the time that we use it the most is when we can't use normal factorizing techniques such as trinomial factorizing, highest common factor, difference of two squares. When we can't do that, that's when we use the quadratic formula. So I'm just going to write the quadratic formula out here. So it's minus b plus minus the square root b squared minus 4ac all over 2a. And this is our quadratic formula, guys. So like I said, it is the formula to work out any x's of any quadratic equation that you get. Okay, so yes, some people use it as a checking tool. So if they're a little bit rusty on their trinomial factorizing or on their general factorizing, they use this just to be safe, which is fine. But then again, it is also time consuming, so we have to think a little bit strategically. So let's put it into practice, shall we? 3x squared plus 5x minus 3. So how do I know? So first of all, I'm going to try. It's a trinomial, so we open bracket, close bracket, open bracket, close bracket. Factors of 3, 3 and 1. Factors of 3, 3 and 1. Is there any way that I'm going to be able to get a 5 in the middle with these factors? Now let's check. 3 times 3 is 9. 1 times 1 is 1. 3 times 1, or 9 and 1, can it ever give me a 5 if I plus or minus it together? Definitely not. Okay, let's try cross. 3 times 1 is 3, 1 times 3 is 3. Can I get a 5 by plussing or minusing 3's together? Definitely not. Okay, so now that immediately leads me to believe that my normal trinomial factorizing techniques is not going to work here. Okay, so that means that I have to use my quadratic formula, and it also means that my roots or my x answers that I'm going to be getting are most probably going to be decimals. Okay, so how do we extract the b's, the a's, and the c's? Well, your formula has to be in this form, in a quadratic format. That is the general format for a quadratic equation. So there we've got the a, we've got the b, and we have the c. So if I'm now extracting this from this equation specifically, x is equal to minus b, so minus 5, plus minus the square root of 5 squared minus 4 times 3, which is A, times minus 3, which is C. Notice the signage. All over 2 times 3. Okay, great. And now what we would do from that point is we would then put it into our calculator. So therefore, x is going to equal, or x is going to equal. And I'm going to show you. This plus minus here is very important. This one's going to be our one where we're going to use a plus, and this one's going to be when we're using a negative. So all you're going to do is you're going to type this into your calculator, right? And the first sign you're going to use is plus. So minus 5 plus the square root. And then after that, once you get that answer, you just press the left button on your calculator. You tap your cursor until it's back in front of that plus. You delete it and you just put a minus, and then you get your second answer. Okay, so let's do that quickly. The answers that we get is, for the positive version, is 0,468. And for the negative one is minus 2,135. Okay, great. So that is putting it straight into your calculator. If they requested to keep it in surd form, which is quite a common thing for them to ask, then you would take this and you would simplify it further. Okay, so let's just write the whole thing out and start it from scratch so I don't lose anyone. All over 2 times 3. Now, if I wanted to simplify this in surd form, then I would have said x is equal to minus 5 plus minus. I would have put everything that's under the square root. So I would have put this whole thing into my calculator, and I would have gotten square root of 61, which is obviously a number that can't be square rooted, hence it being a surd. And then that's all over 6. And if I wanted to represent my two answers, I would say minus 5 plus the square root of 61 all over 6, or x is going to equal minus 5 minus the square root of 61 all over 6. So that is my answer in surd form, and these are my answers in decimal form. Okay, so you can see that they're quite ugly x value answers. Not ugly, but just a little bit messy, being decimals and obviously surds. But this is the technique that you would use when you came across a question like this, where you can't use normal factorizing methods. We have to use our quadratic formula. Okay. Again, a lot of people ask me, James, do we get this in the exams? And I say to them, yes, you do. But my rule is, if you need a formula sheet in your exam, you haven't practiced enough. Simple as that. Okay, hope you enjoyed this video, guys. Please click the subscribe button and look out for any more videos that are popping up. And all of this is in the James book, which is for sale. So please, if you aren't interested, comment or give us a shout and we can arrange that we can get one to you. Awesome. Have a great day.